Hello, this is Karen Burke from Karen Burke Photography, and tonight I'm going to show you how to take a person or persons out of a photo using the Refine Edge Quick Select with the Refine Edge tool to put them into a new background. This will be the finished product, and this is the photo that we're starting with. Compliments of Kirsten Tony Morris, who I met through a Facebook group, Greater Than Gatsby, Photoshop Actions, and she gave me permission to use her photo so I could show you how it's done. So let me get we'll go to the Quick Selection tool. You right click on the Quick Selection tool, make sure you've got it on the plus up here. And we just start in the upper corner, and it'll wrap around hopefully nicely, but we'll see what happens. Let me move this a little bit, it's in the way. I don't need that. Keep going around. Okay. Took too much out here, so we go on the minus tool and we just bring that back in. A little bit of her dress was taken out too much. Got her hair. Hopefully we'll pick up a little bit of those stray hairs. We'll see what happens when we do the Refine Edge. Okay, we've got that. It went a little bit over on the baby. Okay, we got her feet. We can go in afterwards and get that. We'll pull this in a little tighter. Okay, got her feet, got around the baby's hand, we've got her dress. It's just not going to want to go where I want it here, so we'll just fix it up later. Okay, we've got her hair. Okay, now when you have a square around the outside of the box, if we hit the Refine Edge tool now, it would be taking out what we don't want to take out. So we have to hit Select, Inverse, and then just the little girl and the baby are captured. And then we hit the Refine Edge, and you can decontaminate colors. Make sure that you have the output to you want to have a new layer with a new layer mask, because then you can go in and fix anything that you want, because it's not always perfect, it's rarely perfect. So we go with our brush and we just kind of brush around the edges. I can make it a little smaller. And this little spot in here we'll get afterwards once it's taken into Photoshop. That looks good around there. We might have a little bit of a halo around the baby, so we'll just brush it in here. That looks good. And I think we're good. We'll click OK. And now's the time when you want to zoom in and make sure you don't have parts that are kind of partly transparent. So you move in really tight. And if you can see here, you'll see that if we saved it from a distance, it looked fine. But up close, if we'd saved a bit, part of her hair would be partially transparent. So you want to make sure you clicked on the layer mask, and you've got the white because we want to add this back in. Get a brush That looks like about the right size. For this, I'll use a hard brush for in here. We'll paint that back in. What do we got? We got 29%. That's why we're not seeing anything. 100%. And paint that back in carefully. Just slowly move around the photo. You're going to get your best results if you really zoom in. And we'll leave these little fine hairs. You really zoom in and just, sometimes you have to do it pixel by pixel. I mean, that's 3 pixels right there. We can get that little strand of hair. And it's a slow process. You just go completely around the entire photo. Make sure that it can even take things out that you don't want taken out, and so you have to add them back in, and it can do the reverse. You just have to go over it with a fine-tooth comb and get every little bit that you want. Get a little bit bigger brush here. That's too big. We can zoom back just a little bit. Go back on the brush. Bring it down again. And you just have to take your time. The more you take your time, the more realistic it's going to be. Just paint it back in. Okay. You can see right here where the dress wasn't completely pulled in. Then we took too much in, so just go back in and take that out. And if you're not sure where the dress stops and the background starts, you can turn the background back on and see what you're doing. Looks like down here we've got to put that back in. Make sure you clicked on there. I'm going to put that and go in and just add that back in. A little bit more. Okay. Now this is very sheer down here. We'll make a bigger brush and add that back in. Good. Okay, we lost some of her leg here. Make the brush a little smaller. Sometimes it's okay just to leave that shadowing because that's going to help you with your shadow that you're very likely going to have to create when you put it on another background. Okay. Take that out. It looks like the baby's head is a little bit transparent here. So just put that back in. Okay, move on down. Turn the background back on, see what we've got here. Yeah, we got a little bit of the baby shirt taken out. So we put that back in. We'll go back with a smaller brush and go around the baby's face. Just get this out here. Okay, I think we're just about done. Just have to go in under her arm. I gotta put that back in. Okay, and just take this little part out right here. This is where the Wacom pen tablets make your life so much easier. I'm not using it right now, and I should be. But when I have something that's really, you have to take your time and just go in really small areas, the pen tablet is really, really good. It makes it the work a lot easier. Okay. All right, we'll zoom back and see how that looks. And then what I like to do is save it as a PNG so that if you need to make some more adjustments, if I just drag this in to a photo, I wouldn't be able to make the kind of adjustments that I'd want to make that if I had made it as a PNG and then brought it into a photo, and then I could add a new layer mask and make any final edits. So what we'll do is we'll just save that as a PNG to my downloads, and it's already there. Okay, so then what you do is you just pull up your background that you want to put it on, and go to desktop, tutorial photos. I've got this backdrop that I got from, oh, I never remember the name of the company. I think it's I'll put a link in. Right click, open with Photoshop. And then we want to drag. Okay, somehow I stopped the recording. Hopefully this picks up where I left off. Now we're going to go in and get our PNG file and drag it in. So here we've got the little girl and the baby all cut out. We just drag the photo over our new background. You hit Shift to resize but keep the dimensions. That looks about the way I had it. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to blur the background. So I'm going to take her out. I had done it a different way, but we'll do it. I'm going to take her out for now. I'm going to delete layer, and we're just going to blur the background first. I'm going to go to into the Greater Than Gatsby actions, and I'll see if I can find it. Blur, clean bokeh. Continue. And what you get with this is you get the blurred background, and you go on your layers and you just paint out where you don't want it blurred. And then we'll move the her and the little one back in. Use a soft brush. And if you start from the bottom, you want that the clearest, and then just gradually move upward a bit until, let's see, 100%, we'll do about 80. Do the bottom, make sure it's on the black. Just bring that back in. And just put maybe bring the just down a bit, because what's going to happen is right up here it's not going to look right. So you want this pretty blurred. Sometimes you can even, I don't know if you can duplicate the layer in here. Let's try that to get it good and blurry up top. Duplicate layer. We'll see what happens. Yeah. And then you can decrease the opacity so you get it good and blurry. And you can go in on this layer and just maybe come a little higher on this one. I'm painting it back in. Get a smaller brush. Just kind of go up here. Because I had a little trouble the first time I did it, and it was just too sharp to put her and the little one in there, and it looked funny. So blurring it first in this instance is going to work better. Sometimes you don't have to. So I'm going to flatten this. We'll see how it looks. Go and drag her back in again. Shift to resize. Okay, I'm going to zoom in, see how she looks on the background. There's a little spot on the top of her head, a little bit in here that we could clean up. So we create a layer mask. Bring it down a bit. Okay. Use a soft brush this time, and we'll just kind of go, that's too much. Alright, let's try the hard brush. I don't want it to feather into her head. I just want to take that little bit of white out. And then you can go in and any place where it was not quite taken out and there's still a little bit of the background in there, you can go in with a tiny brush and just brush it out. From a distance, it's not going to show up when we pan back out. It's not going to show up that it's a little bit milky looking. If you take your time when you're doing the cutout, you're going to get results, especially if you're going to do something close up. It's very difficult. Hair is very, very difficult. If I see somebody with like big wild curls like my niece, sometimes it's just, it can be done, but it's difficult. Okay. All right. Let's zoom back out. And then you can create a shadow. I have a set that I really like. It creates shadows for you. Studio Magic. It's from Layer Cake. It's kind of neat. I'm gonna go Shadow Caster, create a new shadow. Oh, are we on the right layer? Nope. We're not. Of course we're not. Okay, so we want to edit, undo, make sure we're on the right layer. Studio Magic. Alright, I don't know why this is doing this. It worked when I was doing it before. It should not have this big square shadow because I used the PNG. Why is it doing that? Let me delete that. We'll try one more time. Otherwise, I'm putting up the white flag. Maybe I was on the mask instead of the little girl. Let's try this one more time. Studio Magic. Shadow. Create new shadow, please. Damn it! This worked when I wasn't doing a tutorial. Alright, I quit. Let's undo this because it wasn't meant to be, and we'll do it the old-fashioned way. We'll go on the background and we'll burn it. Burn, shadows. You have no idea how annoying this is. Alright, so we're just going to go underneath her, and it won't do anything. If you accidentally go over the baby or her, it won't burn anything on them. It'll just burn the ground underneath them. When you're burning shadows, you want to see where your light's coming from, so their shadow's going to fall here. We'll go on the mid-tones. When you're burning a shadow, the closer you are to the subject will be the darker the shadow. As you move away, the shadow's going to get lighter and softer. So you just decrease your opacity as you move further back. And we'll do the highlights. And then you can also go on to the subject and do a little dodging and burning as well. Go with the highlights. You want to go very, you got to rasterize first. You want to go really light because it can make the fabric really muddy looking, just so that we know that the light's coming from over here, so she's going to have some shadows on this side of her body. Go under her leg, under the baby's arm, under her heel and her foot. We'll go on to the midtones now and do the same very lightly. We don't want them to look like they're free floating. And then shadows. Okay, now we can take this into Camera Raw. We can flatten this, and I just want to brighten up her face a little bit, right in through here, just add a little brightness. So what I usually do is duplicate the layer, filter, Camera Raw filter, and the what's that called? The adjustment brush. I always want to call it the quick selection. Everything's quick selection for me. And adjust the size of your brush. And just go, we got the exposure up, contrast about the same. We can bring the highlights up a little bit, decrease the shadows. You don't want to go too much clarity and sharpness because we're going to run it through a Greater Than Gatsby action, and that's going to sharpen them. So we'll just go where there would be extra light. I could just erase right here. Just bring that up so I can see what I'm doing. Erase just the ground around her. Bring it down. I'm going to bring the size down just a bit. We're going to be adding again because I was on the erase. Just go in and get the front of her face a little bit. Okay. Now, see how that looks. That brightened her up a little bit. What I did, if you see there's a little bit of a brightness on top of her head, you can create a layer mask and just take that out because it'll show up even more when we run the action. Be nice if I was on an actual brush. This isn't just for the video. I do this when I'm doing my editing too. It's just the way I work. Always clicked on something I'm not supposed to be clicked on, and I don't find out until I start using my brush and realize nothing's happening. Take some of that brightness down just on this side of her face a little bit. Maybe that was too much. Just add it back in a little bit. Just take some of that out there. Alright. I think we're okay. I'm just going to take that down just a little bit because what's going to happen is when I run my action, it's going to brighten them up a lot. So I just want to have their face illuminated a bit. Okay, we'll flatten this, and then we'll run our, I think I'll go with the, I've been using the carving tree a lot more recently. Newborn, carving tree, and we'll go with the Clean Edit color base. Okay, and then you just see how it looks. Open it up. The only thing I want to do is just zoom in and make sure this background isn't over sharpened. Take off the vignette, I think. We'll see what the spotlight looks like. It looks nice, I'll leave it. Sharpening, I think I'll turn one of the sharpenings off because we don't want it too sharp. And close that. And I believe I added some falling leaves, so we might as well do that too. We'll go to my pictures, photo effect, plant life, falling leaves, and drag that one in. We're going to hit the shift key to resize it. Okay, you can distort it a little bit, hit the skew, and you can just kind of play with it to make it look a little different, like it's not so flat. Filter, because it's falling from the sky. Blur, motion blur, and I had it really, really low. I think I've got it like 8. I put the angle as pretty much almost coming straight down, but just a little bit of an angle. You can hit the preview. See, I'm going to point at the screen like you can see my finger. Just a little bit of a motion blur. It does help. And you can copy that one. Hit Control J, and then Control T to free transform. It's just going to turn off the filters while you do that. You can move it. You can flip it and angle it a little differently. You can make it a little smaller. And I believe I put a red one in too. Okay. Make it a lot smaller. Okay. We hit blur it again, filter, blur, motion blur. We'll leave the same setting, and I think we'll leave it at that. I believe I cropped it. We'll just pan back a little bit. Actually, no, that looks pretty good. We'll leave it alone. So this is, I hope it was helpful to show you how to cut out and change a background. It was a very, very sweet photo, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.